Brave Maker Show is hosted by Tony Gaffestone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
What up, everybody? What up, everybody? It is showtime. It's Friday. TGIF. My name is Tony Gaffestone. I am the founder and the director of Brave Maker. I'm headquartered in Redwood City, California. I love getting to do this work, storytelling, brave storytelling, and I'm always with my collaborator, Christina Jackson.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tony, this is fantastic. Yes, I'm Christina Ray Jackson, coming to you from the East Bay in Dublin, California.
And I love that you just do your introduction like nothing is different, but the reality is every single week, this person, my collaborator in banter here, is mashing up cosplay like no one ever. So give us what's happening today, because the question we start our show with every week is, how are you braving your way? Because you need to do it one step at a time to achieve your goals. So responding to that question, tell us what's up. How are you braving your way?
I am. Thank you, Tony, so much for asking me that question. I'm braving my way this week with episodes of the original Soul! Hosted by Ellis Hayslip, hence the look today. So I'm rocking a little Ellis Hayslip look today with the Black Superman. You know, what else? And I have been just devouring the show. It's a phenomenal show. It's Melissa Hayslip, his niece, who brought the documentary to life. And it's so amazing. Available on PBS. You got to check out the documentary. There's a lot of great footage on YouTube as well. And there are episodes from the original show from the 60s and 70s. And you could watch it on PBS Passport, Amazon Prime, and shoutfactory.com. And it's just a phenomenal show. If you want to see if you're a Stevie Wonder fan, which who isn't, if you want to see some of his earliest work, his live show, I mean, you want to talk about a really special experience, the Arsenio Hall, who is in Coming to America too. Like, it's just
so
such
good.
a special show. Yeah.
Kate says, rocking that mustache. Yes, you are. Kate. So it's pretty special. So I just got to call this out, because creative journeys are different. Each one of us has a creative journey. We got to figure out like what works for us. And you, as a now comic book writer, you're developing this comic book. You are trying to find ways to move your creative inspiration forward, how to be intentional with the work that you're doing, and the fact that you and your gender identity are mixing into this idea of cosplay and drag. It's just really phenomenal. I love how you live your life. I think I say this all the time, but you bring such joy to the world, and I'm so glad I get to do this with you. I love it. Thank you. So my response to that question, how are you braving your way? And you can also put that in the comments as well. What have you done this week? One little thing you did this week to move the needle forward to achieve your goal. So this week, I gathered 5 different animators together. Brave Maker is starting an animation team because I have been desiring to create some animation stuff, and I'm really stoked. We have 5 animators who are super talented. We've created a docket of projects that we are developing, and we're gonna put ourselves on the map with animation storytelling. Like, we're just gonna do it, and we're just gonna start it by one thing on the to-do list at a time, and that was get people together, start talking about projects, and then 2 weeks from now, we're going to come back and start sharing some drawings and some conceptual ideas. So that's it. How are you braving your way? Go after your goals, everybody. And today, we're excited because some of you're actors, and you have to take classes and train yourself on how to master dialects and accents. And some of you just want to like make your cell phone voicemail cool. And so you're going to tune in for that reason. But I am really excited for our guest today because he's an accent and dialect coach. So welcome everybody, Jack Wallace to the show.
Yes, welcome, Jack.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today.
So before Jack got on, I was practicing my Gru from all the Gru, the Despicable Me. So I'm not going to do that because I don't want to embarrass myself. But I want to first ask you the question, how in the world does one become a dialect coach? And why is this important to the entertainment industry?
Yeah, and it's a great question because everybody follows their own path to get here. It's not like becoming an actor or becoming a doctor where you kind of do this, then you do that sequentially. A lot of dialect coaches started off as actors, kind of were doing some accent things and thought, I want to know a little bit more about that, and kind of researched that a bit more. Me, myself, I've always been into the dialects. I went to university. I got a master's in it in England, and then I continued that way.
Love it.
So how does one decide, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to master in dialect. Like, how do you decide to go to school for that? When were you first intrigued by languages and the sound of languages?
Yeah, well, where I come from in England is a really interesting place. It's kind of an accent border almost. So where I would go to high school, they would say words a certain way. And then my hometown, they would say them another way. So, for example, the word this thing here. Well, the thing that's holding it.
Gloss.
Gloss. Okay.
So where my home is, we would say glass, and where my school was, they would say glass. And so I was like, okay. And then my mother is from Belfast, so has a completely different accent to the family as well. So I think I just got inundated with this kind of mixture of accents at a young age, and it led me to pursue it further.
Do you kind of have like this amazing ear, like a spidey sense? Because for you to be able to go, oh, glass, like those are really interesting pieces of, dialogue to pick up. In fact, I often have people occasionally go, are you from the Midwest? Because they can pick up the fact that I say certain words like awesome, like with a little bit more of an or whatever,
yeah. Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that maybe I got a head start, but it wasn't until I actually started studying it that I was like, oh, wow, there's a science behind this. Like where your tongue is changes the way that you say things. And you eventually get to the stage where you can hear a sound and know what's happening physically. And that's when you're kind of ready to take on all the accents.
So how do you break down to do an accent, the physical part? I saw some of your work with the Basketball Housewives, and she had some kind of an alter ego for a musician. How do you start to transform your physical, like the way that you speak and your mouth and all of that? How do you begin to do that?
Yeah, well, first of all, you need to know what you already do, or have a slight awareness of that. Because if someone says to you, oh, your tongue needs to be higher, well, where is it right now?
Yeah.
So it's getting that initial awareness of certain things that you do, and then you can find the journey that you're going on. Obviously, if you're an actor going in for an audition, you don't have time to do that whole learning process in half a day. So there are tricks that we can employ to be like, okay, make your lips a little rounder, make it a bit darker, or use other terminology that's not strictly scientific that can have an effect. But the problem with that is that you can say a certain word to somebody and it means something completely different to someone else. So it's always good to have that scientific kind of backup available.
I love it that if you go to accentcoachjack.com, you can find out and see so much more of what Jack is doing. And one thing I love is that he's got all these videos where he's like picking out who is real and who is not. And you can go down the rabbit hole, like these Buzzfeed videos, and really get an appreciation for Jack and all that he does. I love this kind of stuff. Like this is the kind of stuff that gets me hours and hours on YouTube. But it's worth it because so I am an actor as well, and I've done a couple things where I've had to change my twang, or I've had to have a little bit of a Southern kind of thing. And I always feel like, oh my gosh, I am not rocking it. And I've never had the privilege of working with a coach. But what would one do to start a relationship with you? And what does that kind of look like when someone says, I got a role, or I'm auditioning, I want to get to a place? How do they go about doing that? And what could they expect a partnership with you would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens very frequently. Either reach out to me on social media or just send me an email. And usually it says something like, I have an audition, it's due tomorrow. It's an accent. I've got to be from Texas here. I've got to be from Ireland. I've got to be Haitian, whatever it might be. Give the character breakdown, the timeline, and then we kind of work out when we can both meet and get it done. And then there are other people that want to build their skill set as an actor. They just want to have it in their back pocket for the castability reasons, perhaps. And then for that, we just kind of have a conversation, what sort of roles you go out for, what accents might be useful for your career. If someone's always saying, oh, do you have this accent? And you're saying, no, then it might be that they see something in you that puts you in that kind of character bracket. So it might be useful to kind of work on an accent like that to have it ready for the next time it comes up.
Where do you think actors miss the mark when it comes to accent? Is it just as simple as like they don't get the training and they try to fake it, or they just watch YouTube videos to try to mimic it? What are some do's and don'ts when it comes to actors and accents?
Absolutely. Yeah. The thing that we're always battling against, whether you're on kind of an Oscar-winning movie or something you're shooting yourself for social media, is the time that it actually takes to master something. There's a difference being able to say a couple of lines in an accent and having the ability to improvise and actually live in that accent. And for that to happen, that takes a lot of time, kind of at least 12 weeks of preparation. But obviously, lots of film timelines are a lot shorter than that. So I would say don't necessarily rely on your ability to hear something and replicate it. The first stage is being able to hear the differences, but you also need an external force to kind of listen to both of you. Because if you've got a sound that's very similar to what you already do, but it's not quite the same, you might not hear a difference between those two things. But somebody from there will absolutely hear it and say, they're American, they're from the Midwest, for example. So, yeah.
Kate says, how do you stay consistent? How about voicing several accents in one project? That's what we were talking about before we went live. It's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Consistency. In order to be consistent, you need to know the rules of the accent and what rules you can kind of bend. For example, in a lot of British accents, there's all these things to do with the letter R and when you say them. And if you break that rule, then immediately people are like, they're not from here. But there are other sounds that you can kind of wander away from, but they're still within the acceptable limits of what you can do. So in order to stay consistent, you need to know which rules you can break and which rules you need to absolutely stick to. And voicing several accents in one project, this is something I love training actors to do. I've got the chance to coach a lot of verbatim theatre or documentary theatre plays, where one person is multi-rolling, usually from characters all over. And so it's good to have either a hook line or a physical trick where that accent lives, so that you can quickly switch when the lights go down, or just within a split second from one person to another. Great question.
Ooh, that is really good. It makes me immediately think about, like, if I were to do that, and I would love to be able to do this type of voice work, but to think about how I often hear actors doing live action work, that wardrobe and hair and makeup affects how they bring that character to life. And I also wonder if you're in a sound stage or a studio, like, and you're voicing multiple characters, if putting something different on your head, like just getting in that character, as well as like how you form your face, if that would help too. That's really good. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're in a booth in doing just voiceover, you have the privilege of being able to do anything with your body at that stage. So even literally different stances for each person might help kind of root you in that accent. But if you're on stage, obviously you can't suddenly just deliver all your monologues like this.
So last year I had a fantastic opportunity to audition for a Nickelodeon show that required an Australian accent. Didn't go that great. I did exactly what you said not to do, which was, oh, I'll just listen and then I'll imitate. No, it didn't work out so well. So if I would have had Jack on speed dial, what would you have said, Christina? You need to start here.
Yes, I would say as an American person going into an Australian accent, there are two things that you would need to kind of focus in on immediately. Mm-hmm. One is that the letter R, when to say it, when not to. And two is getting really friendly with that middle part of your tongue, because they make a lot of their sounds at the middle part of the tongue, whereas in American, you're more likely to have less of an arch when you speak. It's more likely to be a little bit further back the arch rather than in the middle. So you kind of have to get used to using a different part of your tongue to make some sounds.
Wow. Okay.
So one of your videos is this this Australian thing, and I love it that you get to pick out which one is the liar. So we'll put that in the chat here so you can see that too. Keisha's asking, what is the hardest accent to teach? Yeah,
that's a great question. And again, it depends on what you already do. So the ones that would be hardest for me are ones that sounds that I don't make on an everyday basis. Maybe I haven't visited them. For example, I don't have to trill any of my R's when I speak. So if I have to do an accent that does a lot of that, then I have to work up to teaching it. First of all, I have to practice before I suddenly go in and teach it. But it really depends on what the actor has heard before, what they've been exposed to, if they're familiar with this accent, or if it's something completely new and something very far away from themselves.
I love that. Can you chat about some of your favorite moments working with actors? You don't have to name drop if you don't want to, but you can. But just anything from set, just fun stories. I mean, this sounds like a fun job. It also sounds like a lot of work, but anything that you want to share about what you love about it and things that, make you laugh as you reflect back or appreciate.
I love how unpredictable it is. There are some shows that I've worked on that you kind of negotiate that you're going to be there, you wait 3 weeks, and then they're suddenly like, okay, yeah, you got the job, you need to start coaching tomorrow, we start filming very soon, and you're like, okay, I anticipated this, so I've done some of the research and I have that ready. And then there was another film that I did, and the lead of the film called me up and said, I'm the lead, I'm a real person, it shoots in 10 days from now. Also, the real person is going to do the narration of the film, and then I'm going to do the scenes. I was like, excellent. And this particular person didn't have a kind of standard accent. They had what we call an dialect. So that's a really fancy word. It just means the way that an individual person speaks. Everybody in the world has an dialect, and so all the features that make up that create your own way of speaking. So this person had a blend of two different accents. And as an actor, that's always the scariest place to be, because people are like, oh, you're slipping into this or you're slipping into that. But because this person was narrating the film, we had to match it exactly. So yeah, that's probably one of the most interesting things that happened recently.
So something I'm so curious about. So Lady Gaga, A Star Is Born, she sang La Vie en Rose in French. Would she have worked with an accent coach? Would someone like her come to you to prepare for a role like that?
Yeah, they absolutely can. I've had to kind of coach people in some languages that I don't necessarily speak before, but because I have this knowledge of what the mouth does in order to create certain sounds, I could say, aha, what you're doing there is very close, but if you just do this, then it's going to match. But we also have kind of linguistic experts as well that tend to do with the translation side of things. if something's fully in an accent, in another language.
Got it.
So, Jack, I was telling him off live show how we connected. Obviously, we do so much connection to people on the internet these days, and I absolutely love it. And I love that you were super receptive to my Instagram messaging. And I think we started talking about 6-8 weeks ago and tried to find a date. Now here we are. It's super cool. But I was remembering, oh wait, this wasn't just a pandemic thing. Kind of was, but I met your wife, who you're married to, obviously. She's a wife, but she's an actress. We met on a podcast from a class, super random and weird. But I want to talk about what's it like being married to an actress, and do you find yourself coaching her? Is it hard? Is it difficult? Do you love it? Anything that you want to share? Because anybody who's in the entertainment industry that has friends or significant others, I want to hear some of the behind the scenes of how you make that work. So this isn't necessarily about dialects and accents, but it is. But just the making it work with someone in the entertainment industry in such a tight, intimate relationship.
Yeah, well, we actually met in grad school. She was on the acting program when I was on the voice program. And it was one of the first documentary theatre shows I did. She has a one-woman show. At the time, it started off with about 6 characters, and they were all from different places. So I helped her with the accents on that. And then once we graduated, we got married, we moved here. It became a fully fledged production. She interviewed over 300 people, cut it down to about 20, but they all had their own voices. So yeah, I often help out with things like that. And then now she's getting a lot more into voiceover and animation. So we have a lot of fun there. But a lot of it is just coming from her, and then she'll say, "Oh, can you help me with this?"
So wait, right? is this Body Courage? Is that
but this is Body Courage.
So Body Courage was her one-woman show
project.
Oh, that's why my gosh.
That's why her handle is called Body Courage.
Exactly. I know that I knew a little bit of this, but now it's all making sense. So I got to find this real quick because that is super cool. So go find Danielle's page, Body Courage. She also does this thing called #book. Amazing. But I love that. You guys need to make a TV show about this. This is a TV show. Tell me you're pitching this.
Absolutely. You are the first people we're pitching to.
Come on. I mean, actress of a one-woman show connects with the lover who's an accent coach, and they build this thing together. I want to see it.
I want to see that.
That is
6
so
different
rad.
characters. Whoa.
That is so rad. Go check that. That's so cool. How long have you two been married?
It will be 8 years in August.
Woohoo!
Such baby face,
That is fantastic. I love it. Okay, cool. Well, I'd love it if you're willing. You deserve compensation for your services, so we're not going to take advantage of that. But give us a little fun lightning round of accents and dialects. I want to hear what's your tip to have a southern kind of Texas kind of something like that. What do you think we should be doing if we want to be we're from Texas?
Well, yeah, you're already doing it. It's sounding beautiful. I think, maybe you can book that role tomorrow. The biggest thing with any accent is divorcing yourself from sounds and letters, because the English language is crazy when it comes to spelling. And so if you're looking at a script and you're like, oh, this is an O, so all my O's are like this. That's not right. If you think of kind of the word though, through, cough, they're all spelled O-U-H, completely different sounds. So how many vowels did you learn in primary school? How many vowels are there in English?
Is this a trick question?
It is a trick question, but I want you to answer the
5. 5.
And what are they?
A-E-I-O-U.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very good. There's at least 14 to 16 in the way that we speak.
Wow.
The difference between A and A and R, that's 3 vowels right there. So kind of getting that knowledge in before you start any accent is super important.
So it's all about the vowels. That just hit me, right? Is it all about the vowels pretty much?
It's a lot about the
A
vowels.
lot about the vowels. Yeah.
But those
That makes
consonants, they can make a difference.
Whoa, that makes a ton of sense. Like when you think about, okay, so you say something like, if I'm going to do a Midwestern or a Southern accent, I'm going to be looking at the particular vowels because they might be drawn out or a little bit longer. Then what about if I'm trying to do, obviously there's a lot of different British English type of accents. What's the tip there? Because the same thing, there's vowels are shorter potentially.
Yeah, well, why don't I teach you a typically English vowel?
Oh,
Let's do it.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
So, can I get you to say the letter that comes after N in the alphabet? Just as yourself.
Oh.
Very good. And Tony?
Oh.
Oh. Yeah, so if you slow that sound down over like 3 seconds, what does that sound like?
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, so you already have 2 different versions there.
Uh-huh.
But you both have 2 sounds. You start at one place and you glide to another. Can we hear that one more time?
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have an O and an O, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Now, the great thing is we're going to finish in the same place, even in British, which is great. But we're going to start at an as in the. So can I get you to say the?
The.
Can I get you to say push?
Push.
Very good. And Tony, the push.
The push.
Now let's chop out just the vowels. So we have Very good. Tony. Very good. And now we're just going to glide between them. Oh.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And then we end up with an O. Oh, exactly.
Oh.
We end up with O.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh.
Oh no. Oh no. I feel fancy
great.
already. I feel Bridgerton fancy.
Exactly. The second season, I look to see you there.
How many people are contacting you to do like their Bridgerton Halloween parties, right? Like that's so fun.
Yeah. The success of that is really excellent.
For you, I hope so. I hope so. That's really cool. That's really okay. So how about Irish, Scottish, that kind of thing? Do you do that kind of thing too?
Yes, absolutely. So let's stick with this O, for example, and let's look at a part of Scotland, because again, every one of these things is not a monolithic accent. Right. There's a lot of accent diversity in all of these places. So we're going to do the opposite. So we have the 2 sounds there. We're just going to make it 1 sound and sustain it. So can I hear your regular O's one more time? Nice and slowly.
Oh.
Oh. Oh. Yeah. And we're going to go super round to O.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And so careful, Tony, that you don't do a little what at the end. But just keep it going. Oh.
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 Yeah. So we sound like old people in the Highlands, but it's definitely a version of Scottish there.
Do you find that, like, so I'm kind of visualizing things in my head, like I'm wondering too, as different people have different tactics to, like you were talking about your face, your wardrobe, your stances. Like I almost, when you said the W, I was like, oh, I saw it like almost visually like a skywriter in my head. I'm like, oh, that was interesting. That I assume part of the blocks that actors could get is like you get in your head a lot. So I guess maybe one of my final questions would be, how do you like separate yourself like from the mental part, from the blockages that come?
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, hopefully the person you're working with, if you are working with someone, doesn't use judgmental language like that's wrong or that's a problem.
Oh.
But some of them do. But mentally already you're like, oh no. But if you find there is a word that is not as accurate as you would like it to be consistently, I like to kind of focus on that word a little bit and then use it to build the sentence around. So say the sentence is, I like ice cream. and it's the ice part that you can't get, then start off with ice and then ice cream, like ice cream, I like ice cream. So you literally start there and then build the sentence around it from both sides. That way you've had enough repetition, and then hopefully it's kind of in the muscle memory. So then when you say I like ice cream, again, it kind of fits together.
Fun. Okay. I love it that you're not a judgy accent coach, let alone judgy person, it sounds like.
That's beautiful. He's using mindful language to teach. That is just so amazing. I'm really curious. So we had Lodrick on the show. Was that last week? And he's going to be playing Smokey Robinson in a biopic coming up. And a lot of my cosplay was inspired by Chadwick Boseman, and we lost him. I was devastated. And I started dressing as King T'Challa, like every show I did that. And so I'm curious and he played James Brown. So if as an actor, if you get a role for a biopic or something like that, should you immediately call up Jack, or should you feel like, I could just watch some of their old videos and I got it? What should you do to really nail that?
I would say the earlier that you can meet with a professional, the better the results are going to be, because you run the risk of setting in bad habits or inaccurate sounds as you're going, and then it's harder to unlearn something and relearn it than it is to learn from scratch.
Well, I'm going to put your Instagram here in the chat, and if you're watching us live or on the replay, I'm going to encourage you to go and follow Jack on his socials and comment, say you saw him here with us, and just follow his journey, and maybe you could enlist some of his services. Obviously, I know you have a business here, but people need to invest in themselves. We talk a lot on this program about actors, especially investing in themselves and trying to get out of the mindset of the scarcity. I'm just a struggling actor, because I think that derails a lot of people. So I don't know if you want to talk to the investment portion, or how you coach people through realizing like this is money well spent. You've got to spend money on training. Like, in fact, I did a conversation earlier this week with Jeremy Valdez, and he was talking about, as actors, one of the best things you can do is train, study. Don't just show up to auditions or show up to set thinking, I'm just going to do it. I'm a player. I have imagination. Yes, but you also need to train yourself how to use that effectively. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's a conversation I actually also have to have with production houses as well, because it's not just actors that have this kind of budgetary fear, for example. But if you explain to a production that we would then have to go back and do ADR on all of these scenes, which then you have to hire another studio, the sound engineer, all of that, or you could just pay for a dialect coach, you end up actually saving in the long term, because you're not having to redo things that are going to cause offense later or just kind of break the movie. And so for actors, it's definitely a castability kind of increase that you can have if you are able to transition between accents and become an accent actor. Because one of the other things that I teach as well is not just this is the accent for this role. It's kind of this is how you learn accents at the same time. So my hope is that when people see me, eventually they won't need me necessarily, because I will give them the skills to then do it for themselves.
Yes, that's awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Right on. Well, this has been so fun. I love this kind of conversation, and we always love to extend our guests with the future possibility of returning. If there are fun things you want to chat about, I'm definitely going to stay in touch. Maybe we can carve out a little quarterly accent Jack pop in. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But let's do our weekly faves. Here they are.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
All right. Every week we share our favorite things of the week. Christina, you get to go first. What you got?
I got the Boondocks. I'm still in my black anime inspiration for my comic book stuff. And I'm super excited. Actually, this ties into what we're doing today with Jack. So So Regina King actually voiced both Riley and Huey Freeman on the Boondocks. It's available now on Hulu. It's a fantastic Black animation show for everyone, really. And I'm really excited about it. I'm studying the show. I'm not just watching it how I did before I was an actor and an aspiring voice actor. Because, and happy birthday, Karen Southall, fellow Brave Maker crew. Her and I are getting together this weekend to work on an animation series that Brave Maker is bringing to life. And I'm hoping that some of the Brave Maker crew gets to voice the characters that we're bringing to life. So, Jack, we will definitely be hitting you up. And I'm super excited about that project. And yeah, check out the Boondocks.
That's cool. Boondocks. I love it. And you were talking about how Regina King voices multiple characters. Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. All right.
It's really cool.
Jack, accent coach Jack, what you got?
I love to be basic. But WandaVision is what I've got.
I love it.
The finale just came out yesterday. I won't give any spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it, but it was great. And also, Elizabeth Olsen got a lot of flack at the start of her kind of Scarlet Witch trail with her Sokovian accent, and then not having it all of a sudden. And then, so I think they've done a really good job of kind of making light of that in the show. And when you actually look at each episode and the different eras that they're set in, she does change her accent to fit in with the time, and I think that's an excellent, like, extra little detail.
I think that was really fun that they played with that and brought it to light in a really clever way. Like, this is like, for me, like, I was like, that was like, we all noticed it. We like, same thing with X-Men, Halle Berry. She lost her South African accent with Storm, and we all were like, what happened there? But I think it was really fun that they kind of poked at that too. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That's great. All right, my Brave fave is, it's so funny. I would never think that this was going to be my Brave fave, but I am going to share Framing Britney from the New York Times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I watched it on Hulu, and I was like enthralled with this. I mean, I definitely had an appreciation of Britney Spears. I like her music, but never did I like feel like I was like engaged in this story before. So Framing Britney is basically like talking about, I feel like how the way I interpreted it was the challenge of fame and how fame can rob someone. And, you know, we often sometimes go like, oh, please, people who are famous, they got all the money in the world, they got what they wanted. But there are some real consequences I think we need to talk about. And this documentary did it for me. So I recommend Framing Britney Spears and wrestle with the uncomfortableness of sometimes what we do to people in the spotlight. They're human beings too. So free Britney, hashtag.
Wow, that's fantastic. I can't wait to check that out. I'll tell you something. Britney Spears was one of my first impersonations that I went for. Like, if you guys want to close your eyes, Jack and Tony, let me know how this goes. All right?
Okay. All right. Closing.
Here we go.
I see you looking my way, and I know that you have something to say.
I see that. I hear that. Honestly,
you hear that?
Good.
I know Jack can polish that up. Right? I know it. I
don't think that can be improved upon, honestly.
Are you serious? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Well, hey, this has been great. Thank you to accent coach Jack Wallace for joining us on the show. As you know, Brave Maker, well, if you don't know, Brave Maker is found online at bravemaker.com. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. The work that we do is out to celebrate and support artists of all kinds, makers of all kinds. If you would want to join us in doing this, we have original content that we are making and producing. We are fiscally sponsoring emerging filmmakers. We have a documentary forum coming up. Check it out, bravemaker.com/doc forum. And it's happening this March 27th online. You get to meet Emmy-nominated, Oscar-nominated filmmakers from all around the world. I'm going to show you the screen. I will put this in the comments as well. So if anybody wants to participate, you can sign up today. It's a really cool opportunity to get your documentary launched, to start your film career, to find ways to navigate through distribution and fundraising. So bravemaker.com/doc forum. And go to our website and sign up for free movies and other fun stuff at bravemaker.com/ Buzz. And thanks for everybody who's watching live. I'm seeing all your comments here. Sorry I didn't get to some of them, but thank you so much for being a part of stuff. Jack, this was great. Thanks for being a part of stuff with us today. It was fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch. And Christina and I always end our show with this phrase: brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Don't go away, Jack. Stay tuned. Hold on.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate.